the Senior Podcast Show. My name is Corey Lear. I am the Director of Communications for the Senior Companies and also the host of the Senior Podcast Show. As always, we are here today with another very special guest, Rebecca Holland. Welcome,
Hello.
Rebecca.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We are so glad that you're here today. Rebecca is the executive director of a community in our area called My Doctors Inn. My Doctors Inn is also one of our senior network partners. We are so pleased to be able to work with them and assist different clients throughout all of the different divisions within our two companies. Rebecca, you have a pretty good history in senior living, don't you?
I do, yes. I've been at My Doctors Inn a little over 8 years. Prior to that, I was at a skilled nursing home. So I've been in senior living for it seems like a lifetime.
In a good way.
Yes, in a good way, yes.
So you actually got into senior living through a different route. We've had some guests who have been on who just started right in senior living. You know, they wanted to work with seniors and this and that, but yours started a little bit differently.
Yeah, mine started a little bit differently. So I actually got my nursing license. I worked with a particular doctor that had kept telling me, you got to go to this place, you got to go and apply. They need you. I'm like, it doesn't sound like it would be like a good fit for Rebecca. I don't know. So I went, I actually had an interview, and history kind of wrote itself. Here I am. 8 years later, it was a great fit. I started out actually as their staff nurse, and then have moved up from there.
That's incredible. That's so funny. You're like, oh, I'm not sure. And then you're like, oh, I guess it was home and I
guess
haven't left.
it makes it. Yeah. I love it.
So we brought you here today to talk about something, how to recognize maybe that someone needs a little bit more help. So if you have been a member of our audience, you will know that we've been talking about senior living and the many facets that go along with it, from the different levels of care in between, whether that's assisted living, independent living, or memory care. We also talked about how to incorporate more socialization skills and more opportunities for that throughout the various levels, whether that's at home or that's in the community setting. We talked about some family dynamics on how some people want to make that transition and some people are saying, oh, no way.
Right.
So we really wanted to be able to educate our audience on some other things, some other facets of senior living. And so what if, the situation arises where somebody does need a little bit more help? Maybe they're not necessarily aware, or they are aware, and staying in the home just doesn't work anymore.
Right. So sometimes what happens is families and seniors have a lot of resistance of moving somewhere. They're
scary.
at home.
Moving stinks.
Yeah, they're at home, but it's getting to be a little bit too much. They're having difficulty in the kitchen cooking or getting into the shower like we used to, into the bathtub. Different things arise, and everybody's situation is a little bit different. What I tell families when they come in is that the time that you want to make the move is before we need so much assistance, right? So that you can enjoy the great amenities, you can be part of the family, get to know people, when you're at your best, right? So that way, as things change, we change with you. You're at home, you're in your apartment, we're going to change and do whatever it is that you need. But that way you're home, nothing has to change. We kind of change what needs to happen so that everything is met, all needs are met. Mm-hmm. But again, the way they can just enjoy the community, enjoy the residents. I have residents of all different calibers, some independent, some not. It just depends. So
we talk a lot about like needing, whether that's ADLs, and those are activities of daily living, right. Just for our audience to review, that's like grooming and bathing, showering, toileting, right. Dressing, things like that. Mm-hmm. But what are maybe some health concerns that would make someone think about that transition into assisted living?
So sometimes a lot of people have difficulties with their health at home, to where maybe they're having difficulty managing their blood sugar, or maybe they're having difficulty, they just got a new ostomy, or they recently had a stroke and are having more difficulty popping their meds or something like that. The great part about My Doctors Inn is we do a whole continuity of care. So if they need assistance with diabetes and managing that, we get them on a diabetic diet. Our chef prepared meals are already low carb, low sugar. So their sugars start to line up better. They're usually on less insulin, less medication than if they were at home trying to manage themselves with, heaven forbids, if somebody doesn't cook, they go to fast food or maybe the TV dinners or something, which isn't the greatest option sometimes, right? So we do the diabetic care. Again, if people have recently had a stroke at home or something happened, we assist them with physical therapy, getting better with that. different ostomy care, we do that. If they need a Foley catheter, a suprapubic catheter, anything like that, we take care of that for them as well.
And I actually think that those types of care, ostomy care and Foley catheter care, I feel like they're more common than people think they are.
Yeah, they're super common.
And a lot of the time you just can't see it.
No, right. Yes. People
like the
hide
ostomy
that.
is covered by the clothing. Yeah. You can get Foley casts. You can get a leg bag.
Yeah.
For that, so you're not like carrying around that, so you can have these types of issues and people won't know.
No, yeah, nobody knows. I think sometimes there is, the difficulty with people's health, and people age differently. Some people age really well. Some people have more physical difficulties or more cognition difficulties. It just depends on the person. But sometimes people feel like, oh, well, because she needs help, then I don't want to be the person that needs help or needs assistance. But everybody needs something different. So again, I always tell families and residents, there are people just like yourselves that have ostomies, that have these things, but we're helping them, right? So you can see that they're doing really well because we're helping them. They're in the right environment. They're getting the care that they need compared to if they were at home by themselves.
What if I was interested in assisted living, but I felt like I didn't necessarily need like those health related concerns, or what are like some assessments that you do to sort of bring those issues into light?
As far as the health issues?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I do the pre-admission assessments, I talk with the resident and family about, their health. How has their health been? What is the doctor saying? How are we managing things at home? If they're not able to bring those into light, because some people aren't as giving with information.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is okay. But again, we kind of base it off of, you have worked your whole life. You've done all of these things. Now it's your turn to take it easy. It's your turn for somebody to take care of you, right? Somebody else is going to do the cooking. Somebody else is going to do the cleaning. If somebody did my laundry, I'd be so happy.
That is my thing too. Everybody's afraid to lose their independence. I'm like, if that's losing the independence and you're going to cook and clean for me, honey, sign me up.
Yeah,
I'm dependent. And
absolutely. Yeah. Again, it's just making what we talk about a lot at my doctor is quality of life. So as people age and as you get up there and you're spending time with the grandkids and you're trying to maintain a household and shovel the snow and all of these things, it's a lot, right? So the easier that you can make it and the more quality time that you have with your loved ones, we feel like it's just brings out that quality of life even more.
So would you like, if they decided to like, yep, assisted living is the place for me, like, do you go through all of their meds? Is that a requirement?
Yeah, it's not a requirement. I do have some residents that take their own medications as long as the doctor has prescribed them. But we do our cost is included in the medication management. So everything is rolled into that pricing. So there's nothing that they have to pay for additionally. We reorder the meds for them. If they need diabetic supplies, we order those. Ostomy supplies, anything that they need as far as healthcare, we take care of that for them as well.
I think those are huge questions to ask, as a matter of fact, because you guys, I mean, your community specifically, like one-stop shop for all of that. However, talking with other communities who say assisted living might not offer those types of care, or they might say that's an additional cost. So yes. I think bringing that to light and saying like, we specifically do that, how some do not. So asking those questions and making sure you have a really good idea is super important, whether or not you need it.
Right. Yeah. And maybe you don't need it right now, but maybe down the road you need it. And that way, again, as things change, we're right there changing with you, whether it be, transfer status changing, our health needs are changing. Anything that's changing in their day-to-day life, we are there to meet their needs and make sure that we've put different systems in place to make sure that we can still care for them safely and again, meet all of their needs. I think sometimes what happens when people are researching senior living is that they look and call somewhere and they'll say, oh, okay, it's this cost. But then they move in and realize, oh, well, there's also this cost. And then there's this cost if you want me to check on you every couple hours. Or there's this cost for me to empty your Foley catheter
Yeah.
bag. So they end up spending much, much more than had they looked at a place that does all of those things for them.
That's exactly right. You think you're getting a better deal on the front end.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, now this happened. And
Right.
those charges add up really quickly.
Yes.
And they're really not cheap.
No, yeah, it ends up being usually a little bit more.
I would think it would be more
monthly, because again, and sometimes what happens is what they're telling you on paper, that's exactly what they do. So if they're saying, we're going to check on you, or we're going to, make sure you take your medications, or we're going to do a safety check. Their safety check is just them walking into the room. Oh, okay. And walking back out. Where at My Doctor's Inn, we, if you need a safety check, perfect. If you need more assistance, toileting, something, we're right there. We're doing anything that they need at every single check. So
that's a really big difference. And so again, we just encourage our listeners to make sure that you ask all of those questions. Yes. And again, just because, hey, you don't need it right now, like just say, if something happens, accidents do happen, yep. Or all of a sudden health crises do happen. Right. It can happen to anybody at any time. It could happen to me. Right now.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah.
But making sure you're protected, it's almost like an insurance in a
right.
sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's nice. Okay to be overcovered.
No, right. And it's nice to move into a community where you don't have to worry about down the road, well, we're going to have to find somewhere else for mom because they don't offer this, or we're going to have to look for dad a different place because they're not able to meet this need. We sit down with families every single day. I just sat with a family yesterday and said, this is where we're at. Things have changed for her, but let's do this. And then we try something different. Usually, again, we find that that great space for them, right? To where her quality of life is still there, and we're able to meet all of those needs. Even though she moved in semi-independent, now she needs a little bit more assistance. The staff is giving her any assistance that she needs.
I'm really glad that you brought that situation up, because my question is, to have that conversation and have it be started, yes. Did the resident themselves say, hey, I'm noticing that I need more help? Or was it just slowly, because you do get to know people so right. good. You're like, I'm noticing that Sally's like, she's not doing some of the same things she was before.
Right. Yeah. It was my staff noticing that she needed a little bit more assistance. And then me speaking with the family during their visits, like, she's needing a little bit more assistance. We were doing these things before, but now the staff is helping her even more. And the family said, we've been seeing a little bit, but we didn't know, all of the assistance that they were helping with. Right. So they see, again, when we want families to visit, we want it to be a quality visit where you come, you enjoy your time. Maybe you visit on Main Street, have coffee, whatever it is, so that it's that quality visit time. You're not worried about care and if they've eaten today, if they've taken their medications, because it's all taken care of, right? So again, they knew that she needed a little bit of assistance. The caliber that she was getting, they were unaware of. So we talked about it.
I mean, a lot of the time, like when I would go and visit people, I'm like, oh, your fridge looks empty. You need this. Let me clean this for you. Let me do this for you. And then you're running around and then you've not done anything.
Yeah, no visiting.
That, right? You're not talking like you should, or whatever, trying to figure out some activity to do together that day, because you're stocking the fridge and you're taking out the trash and all that stuff, which is fine. More than happy to do it. But it is nice when you don't have to have that worry, because
because you know what's being done. Yeah, absolutely.
How long would you say that you started noticing those things before you had the conversation? And do you try to approach the resident first?
Yeah, so I did not try to approach the resident first, because she does have a little bit of memory impairment. So I did approach the family, but it doesn't take us long. We tend to get very close. We know people very, very well. It doesn't take us too long to notice a change. Usually within a few days. We always say people get a bad day, right? All of us have a bad day.
Absolutely.
You have a sluggish morning. You don't want to get up. You're cranky today. Just like the seniors, everybody gets a bad day. So we give it a couple days. If things are still the same, right, or they're not getting back to their normal, then we start to look at and say, maybe it's a different level of care we need to talk about. Maybe something's happening. Is there a bladder infection underlying? So we rule out different things to make sure, again, that this is actually a change for them. This is the new normal, and then we make changes from there.
I love that you mentioned trying to figure out if there's something medically going on. That is so huge, because a lot of the time, especially with those types of infections, they're going along, everything's okay. They get a UTI, a urinary tract infection, and then the next thing you know, like, they are not themselves. And it's amazing how much more those type of infections affect us as we age versus like someone who is our age getting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It throws them into such a difficulty, right? A lot of
Yes.
behaviors, a lot of changes. I have spoken to a lot of family members that were living at a different community, and they would call and say, well, they kicked my dad out. He was having behaviors. And I'll say, okay, well, what did the hospital say? Well, he has a urinary infection, his oxygen level was low and he was dehydrated. I'm like, well,
Those
once
are
you
bad
fix those
Yeah.
things, I bet you he's going to be much better. And again, they treat the UTI, they fix everything, and he's much better. But the last community said, well, we can't take him back. He has behaviors. When really they looked at the behaviors, not at the person behind the behaviors, right? Again, the great part about knowing our residents so well is that we can pick up on it very quickly when it's a behavior.
And I think too, like with your perspective and your mindset, like as your nursing career is like those types of things are ingrained on you. And I think having someone in a leadership position, not saying that if you don't have it, you can't do the same, but having someone in that leadership position with those types of backgrounds is even more important, because that those things are at the forefront and pass that down to the people who are doing like the firsthand care.
Right. Yeah, I educate staff on a daily basis of different things to look for, different ways to approach dementia, different care tactics, right? So I have been in healthcare a long time. And when I worked at the hospital and we had patients that had difficulty with dementia or Alzheimer's, there wasn't any specific training. But now that I've been in senior living, we do specific training. We talk about meeting their reality, understanding where they're at, as opposed to trying to bring them to your reality. I'll go to communities and assess people and I'll hear the staff say to them, oh, you already ate something, or we've already done that, or we'll do this. Where yes, they have, but really if you'd have said, you know what, yes, let's go, I'm going to go make you something and then we'll do this, right? Again, it's just in that education piece, a lot of coaching, right? Nobody's perfect. We're all human beings. We make mistakes, but as long as people and staff are able to be coached, even families, I've had to educate some families on,
That's
it's
a
not
huge part of your job actually, is talking with families and making sure that people understand, the residents understand, that the families understand,
right?
Both the physical assistance side, but also some of those medical pieces and how they fit in. And that example you used is perfect of it. Yeah. Right. Give that medication some time to kick in. And I think you may find.
Right. And some people
don't come back from it.
Right. Some people don't. Yes. But if it is just a true bladder infection and they're having difficulties, most people will recover, at least as those behaviors go. They may have some more difficulty. I just had a family member, their dad had to have his foot amputated. So the anesthesia after, he didn't have any behaviors before, but the anesthesia. So now it's a difficulty, right? He was living independent and now they're like, well, where do we go? What do we do? And I'm like, he is a perfect candidate for assisted living. I think he's 92. And I said to them,
big surgery to go through at 92.
I know that. And then on top of it now, the anesthesia has altered his cognition a little bit. So they're trying to bounce back from that. He's trying to bounce back from nutrition wise, because he's been having more difficulty in a different setting as a hospital, right? Yeah. So we talked about being able to meet his needs, being able to do different things to ensure, again, that his quality of life is preserved. And as we move forward, if we look at hospice care or palliative care, we're right there for him.
When someone brand new comes into the community, like you just mentioned, you're having all of these sort of discovery conversations with all these residents and their families, like who helps create that care plan?
So myself, usually if I do the pre-admission assessment, I will help create the care plan. I do work with a nurse and a resident care partner that do the service plans with me as well. So what I tell the staff is the service plan is really their Bible to know that resident, to know exactly what they need. So we really make it very foolproof. One person assists for these tasks, or they love, we talk about how they go to the bathroom, how they're going to get to a meal, how they're going to take their medications. We also talk about the good things, right? Like they love music, they love cards, they practice this religion. So that way the staff can understand them. I always tell the staff, if you're going in with a new resident, the first thing I would do is to read the Bible and then address the resident,
you gotta
right?
read that chart.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and too, if you're new and they're new, even if you just say, hey, I know you love to play spades. Right. Like, if you have the time, like, oh, we have this going on. Right. That's similar to
Absolutely,
that. Helps them feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and you want to be included, right? I think sometimes when people look at senior living, they think, well, this is where we go near the end. And that's really not the case. It's where you go to enjoy your time to make those relationships right. I've had a lot of residents that have been reluctant to move. The family has made the move, and then a few weeks down the road or a few months down the road, they're like, you know what? I hate to tell my daughter this, but she was right. It is wonderful, right? So again, making the transition, it just makes it much easier for them. You get to enjoy everything, and again, be part of that community. You are not useless. You still have a purpose. We need you at My Doctor's Inn to fulfill that purpose.
So I think it's very interesting. I got the opportunity to come and take a tour of your community and get to know you guys a little bit better in that way. But we met a client, a resident, I should say, a resident of yours, who didn't need the care, but his spouse did.
Yes.
And so I think that's a really interesting perspective as well, because we always think, oh, that person has to go alone, but that's not true either.
No,
you can come, like you said, everybody ages differently. Their needs are different. So you have a married couple, and you know, he might need more care and the other may not.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it
and that's
just
available
depends.
too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to be separated because someone needs more help.
No, right.
And I think that's a preconceived notion as well. That was such a beautiful story.
Yeah, I know. He's such a sweetheart, Mr. Les. Yeah.
It's time for the senior podcast show, Senior Spotlight, where seniors share their stories.
Name is Sylvester Pagano. I go by Les. And I've been here over a year and 4 months. We had to come here because my wife developed early stages of dementia. So we couldn't stay in the house anymore. And my kids, I have 4 children, a daughter and 3 sons. They looked, and this is the place they chose. They checked many places, and they said this was the one that they really, really liked. And I've liked it since I've been here. It's been really good. My wife and I both moved here. She passed away in March due to the complications with the dementia, and she had a form of blood disorder. And she had other problems, but they were fantastic the way they took care of her. And I can't say enough about these people. They're just, to me, they're like a second family. I tell my kids that. I say, you're my first family, but I got a second family here. And I really mean that. I was having trouble keeping up with things at the house. I got arthritis a little bit, so I was hiring things out, but you still have to do things in the house that you have to do, and I was just unable to do them anymore. I was taking care of her too, and she got to the point where she couldn't go up and down the stairs, and she couldn't cook anymore. So we had a lot of carry-outs, and and the kids, they talked to us about that, and it was my daughter who said, "Dad, I think you should really think about assisted living." And I did. The kids were really worried. "Dad, are you going to be able to adjust to assisted living?" And I was a little hesitant, to be honest with you. And the first week I was here was a little rough, but then I got to meet people, and we got doing a lot of things. And like I say, it isn't like my second family here.
It's funny because I have talked to a lot of adult children that their dad is at home with mom and dad's taking care of mom, but it's getting to be too much for dad. And dad doesn't want to move. He's not ready, but mom really needs the assistance. So when I go to do the assessments, I always try to talk to both of them. You have to think these people have been together for 65 years.
I mean, some people do, but I wouldn't want to.
No, yeah, not at all. So I try to, again, bring them if we can, right? If they're agreeable. If not, I say, anytime you want to visit, anytime you're here, you are part of the family. You eat with them. We have a married couple that lives with us now, and similar to Mr. Les's story, the Mr. needed more help than the Mrs. And the wife was still living at home, but she came every single day. But then we started to notice a difficulty when she would come every day. She would have difficulty. So we notified the family, spoke with them at length, and just said, she seems like she needs a little bit more help. She's forgetting things. Now she lives with us as well. So again,
that's a no-brainer.
I know.
Point, right?
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah.
Let's save your drive.
Yes, please. Yeah. So we can definitely meet married couple needs, anything that they need.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Calling and maybe saying, "Hey, I noticed that about your mom," is not always the easiest conversation to have. However, honestly, she could have maybe wrecked the car. She could have gone to the grocery store separately and fallen getting out of the car, or whatever her issues were
Yeah,
or
something.
challenges that you were
Mhm.
noticing, like it really could save you from having
Right.
to go through those
Right.
types of things.
Yeah.
Or I think too, I wanted to bring up, you mentioned how well, you know, you get to know people at communities and know their likes and dislikes, and
Mhm.
maybe something's wrong, maybe an infection has popped up, but like how much more quickly you can address that
Right.
because they're there. You don't necessarily have to be sent out to the hospital and do that entire rigmarole through that
Right.
system, because a lot of times it's hospital and then it's subacute skilled nursing facility for rehab. Like
Right.
by getting to know them and having them be somewhere where you're already being cared for,
Mhm.
the chances of you avoiding that obviously is not 100% because things happen. But if it is something like that, you can address that because
Right.
doctors do make visits there.
Yes.
They
Yeah. The
do
doctors
have
are
the
there
ability
once
to
a
come
week.
in.
Yep.
That's right. Or you
Mhm.
have nurses available who
Right.
can make those assessments. So that's
Right.
literally what they're trained to do,
No,
that
right.
triage type of
Mhm.
thing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And we try to have no delay in care or delay in treatment. So if there is a UTI,
Right.
we're sending it that day. We're calling the doctor. Hey, I have called the doctor myself and been like, listen, I sent the UA, but I need something today because I'm telling you, this is what it is. And they will give an order. Again, they know them just as well as we do. Actually, one of
Right.
our doctors just retired. He was
That's
76.
so hard when that happens.
I know. We were like, are you sure you want to retire? He's like, I've had
It's
enough.
time.
I'm like,
I'm-
all right,
yeah.
that's okay. But again, the relationship that we had, he knew them so well, just like us. Phenomenal. And I would call him and say, listen, Dr. DeVoe, this is what's happening. I need something for Jane. And he'd be like, go ahead. I got it.
Yeah.
Just write it. I'll take care of it. I got it. And that way there's no delay. So you're not waiting. You know, you're
Yeah.
anticipating their needs. You have everything in place.
Well, because like you said too, that delay, I don't know, something else can happen. If there are behaviors or something's going on, there's a fall, or then they are dehydrated, and then it just can snowball so
Oh my
quickly,
God, yeah, so
especially
quickly.
if people do have underlying other comorbidities or
Mhm.
secondary health situations.
Sure.
Just that slight imbalance
Mhm.
can just
Makes a huge
send it-
difference. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of stress to maybe be able to negotiate away from.
Right. Yeah. We try very, very hard to stay away from the hospital, right? And do everything we can to treat
Yeah.
in-house and make sure their needs are met.
Yeah, I love that. So we have been talking about the different ways to sort of head on the different questions to ask about assisted living and memory care,
Mhm.
how to sort of approach those conversations, how you guys can sort of head off those bigger situations. But can you tell me more about My Doctor's Inn, because it is a really unique place. I will link in our description a video that the senior company's made for you guys,
Oh,
and
perfect.
it does show like pictures of the community, and it
Mhm.
does show them a video of obviously you talking, but I really want them to see some of your most unique features,
Sure.
which is like Main Street, and you guys have like a family and a kid zone to really help people be encouraged to
Yeah.
bring the little ones,
Yeah,
because I think people
absolutely.
sometimes think you can't.
I know, yeah. We just had a resident that would bring her son. He was 4, and the other residents just loved it. They love it. Sometimes I bring my kids in, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, come here." They love seeing the little kids. Yeah, they love the kid zone. We have a library. Sometimes people forget that people used to love to read at home, or maybe they would read the newspaper. So we always have the newspaper available for them in the library. The activity room, the hair salon. You know, other places, yes, have activity rooms and hair
Yeah.
salons. But what makes the great part about My Doctor's Inn is, again, that continuity of care. So as you transition from assisted living, and maybe we need more memory care, or maybe we need more hospice care or something, we move right with you, right? We're not going to look for another place. This is home. Even if we transition to memory care, that the community is still their home. So a lot of our memory care residents
Yeah.
come to assisted living for different activities that they love. If they're able to participate, we bring them. When yesterday Santa came to visit, so everybody came out, saw Santa, got a Santa gift, whether it be memory care, AL, that is their home, right? So we bring them wherever the activity is happening. Again, the great part is that we're not looking for placement elsewhere. You know, it's a big decision to move into a senior living. And then add on top of it, 6 months down the road, they say to you, oh, well, we can't meet her needs anymore, so you have to look for somewhere else.
It's a
How
huge
devastating.
stressor.
Yeah.
It is really costly to have to change places
No,
again.
right.
Whether I mean, it is, you are downsized. It is a
Mhm.
smaller. It's not the
Right.
same transition from a home, but it is still very costly to
Right.
change
Oh,
again.
yeah. Absolutely. Especially when you go, if you started a community where they're charging you for different things, and then as you keep going, they're charging you for more things, and it's not ideal. Again, some assisted livings won't offer hospice care or palliative care or things like that. But again, at My Doctor's Inn, we love our residents. They are our reason for breathing, right? So anything we can do to enhance that quality of life and keep them in their home, and bring their family in with them and bring all the services to them, we bring right to them.
I think the community itself is really amazing too. Just the environment. I mean, they have a 3-story atrium.
Yes.
So you just walk into this giant, huge room and it looks like you're outside on the inside.
On the inside, yeah. Main Street is awesome. Yeah, they love it.
Yeah, it's like they have like lampposts and trees and the different rooms like you mentioned, like the library and the hair salon and the activities room all look like you're going into like a downtown, like a cute downtown, like typical like American, I don't know how to explain it exactly, like small town into like a store. It's the coolest.
It is, yeah. And a lot of residents love to sit on Main Street and just people watch. When you're at home, it's hard because if you're by yourself and you're living alone at home, there's no socialization. The great part about Main Street is that even if there's no activity, there are residents sitting down, having a coffee, chit-chatting about, the ladies love to get together to talk about the men. Some of the men get together to talk about the ladies. So it's such a great community feel. We're just such a big family.
You guys have so many fun activities. We mentioned some of the different aesthetics within the community. How can our listeners and our audience contact you?
Yeah, so you can call the community. I am there usually 6 days a week, 5 to 6 days a week. Our sales director, Nikki Mason, is there as well. So you just call our number. We're there. Even if we're not there, there's somebody there that can show you around, give you a tour, make you feel welcome, right? It's funny, as I go with tours, I always have to tell the tours, I'm a familiar face for our residents, so don't get alarmed when they all come flocking to me, needing something, right? So it's great. I've had tours tell me, it was wonderful. We went to the last place and nobody even talked to the person that was touring us, but gosh, they're all talking to you. They all want to know where you're going, who your friend is. Yeah. So it's a very welcoming environment. They want to know what's going on. And even more so, as people move in and we get new residents, we want to put them with people that they would get along with, right? You want to have that camaraderie. Yeah. We have a Golden Girls table, so we try to sit the ladies with each other. So anything, again, to enhance that quality of life and really make their move to senior living as easy as possible for them.
I appreciate you sharing all of the information you provided us. I really hope it gave our listeners a better insight of some questions to ask and also some things to be aware of when looking for assisted living. Not everybody is going to offer all of the things that My Doctor's Inn offers. And so making sure that you're armed, or at least you're aware with a list of things that are the most important to you, whether that is with those ADLs that we talked about, or that's medically, or it's just the social fun aspect of it, like making sure that they're aware, like have a good idea of what you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why we encourage people to go sooner rather than after some sort of crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more information you have, the better, the more you can be informed and really look at these communities and say, you know what, this when I went to, it just felt right. You're going to feel so much better about that decision. And you're going to be able to sit back and say, gosh, I was reluctant at first, but I did make the right decision. It's working out. I love it. So it is a good move.
Yeah, it's always really hard, like you said, when you're trying to think of all the things that go into that transition. But I feel like once it's done, you sit back and relax and be like, wow, I really don't have to worry about all this stuff.
Or why did I wait so long? I've had residents tell me, I don't know why I waited so long. I should have maybe made the move sooner. Again, when you look at us younger people and people think you're not going to say that, you're going to get to a point, you're going to want to still do those things as far as cooking and cleaning and absolutely. But again, there's something to be said about taking it easy, and you earned the right to take it easy, right? And enjoy those years, enjoy that time with your family so that you don't have to stress about who's going to shovel the snow or who's going to cut the grass or who's taking the trash out. Different things like that just makes it so much easier for them.
Or even else, some of us don't want to put that burden on our family either. And so then you feel bad asking, but then you have all these things piling up.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But if you have any questions about assisted living, or what are some signs or some telltale signs that it's time to maybe start thinking about those things, you can reach me, Corey, at kl@theseniormovers.com, or you can reach me by phone at 586-204-8500. Would you like to provide the listeners with your phone number?
Absolutely.
I would love it.
Yeah. So our building number is 586-838-5900. And then you always can contact me via email as well. It's my last name is HOLLAND @mydoctorsin.com.
Again, Rebecca, we appreciate you coming. You really gave us a different perspective, because I think just from your background, we appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Again, any more information on My Doctor's Inn, you can find in the description down below. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You got to give us a cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Yay.